Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into one of the biggest questions on Earth. Literally. With so much to protect but only limited resources, how in the world do we decide which parts of nature to save? We're going to unpack the brilliant systems and the really hard choices behind protecting our planet's most vital spaces. At the very heart of all conservation work, there is this one fundamental, massive challenge. And look, this isn't just some academic debate, right? We've got countless ecosystems and species at risk, but only so much money, time, and frankly, political will to go around. So every single decision to protect one area, well, it means another one might get left behind. The stakes just could not be higher. Just take a look at this number for a second. 15%. That's it. That's how much of the world's land is officially protected. And yeah, it might sound like a decent chunk, but let's flip that around. That means a whopping 85% isn't protected. And that is why choosing the right spots is so incredibly critical. We have to make sure the most important areas don't just fall through the cracks. So you're probably wondering, how is this massive decision even made? Is it just throwing darts at a map? Well, thankfully, no. It's not guesswork. Over decades, scientists and conservationists have built a really smart, structured system, a way to bring some clear-headed logic to what is, let's be honest, a deeply emotional issue. So, how does this system actually work? Well, it all starts with a kind of checklist, a set of criteria for what to look for. It really all boils down to a few core questions. Experts are looking for biodiversity. Does this spot represent a whole healthy ecosystem? They're looking for uniqueness. Is it home to rare species you just can't find anywhere else? And then there's urgency. Is it on the brink of being lost forever? And of course, they have to be practical. Does it connect to other important habitats? And can we actually manage and protect it effectively? Now, one of the most crucial concepts on that list is something called endemism. This one is huge. When a species is endemic, it means its entire world population lives in one single defined place. That's it. So if you don't protect that location, that species is gone forever. This is exactly why places with tons of endemic species, like Madagascar or the Galapagos Islands, are almost always at the top of the priority list. So this whole process takes all that complexity and distills it into a pretty clear logical workflow. Step 1, you identify potential areas, using that checklist we just talked about. Step 2, you prioritize them. An area that's super unique and also under immediate threat is going to shoot right to the top of the list. And then finally, step 3, you assign. Once an area is selected, it gets a specific protection category, which is basically the rulebook for how it's going to be managed. And that brings us to the next big question. Okay, so an area is chosen for protection. What does that actually mean? Well, it turns out protection isn't just one thing. It's a whole spectrum of options. The International Union for Conservation of Nature, the IUCN for short, created this amazing spectrum of categories. So on one end of the scale, you have something called a strict nature reserve. That's basically look but don't touch. Maximum protection, minimal human contact. But way on the other end, you have a sustainable use area, which is designed to allow for some human activity. And right there in the middle, you have places we all know and love, like national parks, which try to balance both protection and public enjoyment. And here's the real genius of these categories. They create a shared global language. So a national park in Brazil and a national park in Japan might have totally different plants and animals. But because of this framework, they share a common philosophy for how they're run. It lets everyone get on the same page and speak the same language of conservation. It's pretty cool. Okay, so just when the system seems pretty clear, we've got to add one more layer to this. The IUCN isn't the only major player in town. You've also got UNESCO, the United Nations Cultural Organization, and they designate protected areas too, but with a slightly different philosophy. So here's the key difference, and it's actually pretty simple. The IUCN framework is a technical toolkit. It's focused on how to manage an area. It's the nuts and bolts of conservation. UNESCO, on the other hand, is all about recognizing sites of exceptional universal value. These are places so important, either naturally or culturally, that protecting them is seen as a duty for all of humankind. We're talking about places like the Great Barrier Reef or Serengeti National Park. So the best way to think about this isn't as two competing systems, but as complementary ones. They work together. The IUCN framework defines the how, the management rules, and UNESCO celebrates the why, the reason a site is so globally important. An area can easily be both. The Serengeti, for example, is a national park under the IUCN system, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. All right, so all of these systems, The checklists, the categories, the global designations, they all ultimately lead us to the most difficult, most challenging, and most ongoing debate in all of modern conservation. And this right here is the final crucial question. Because, it's one thing to draw a line on a map and call it a park. It is a whole other thing to make that work for the people on the ground. How do we protect biodiversity without harming the livelihoods of the very communities who have lived on and depended on these lands for generations? Finding that balance, that is the ultimate test for conservation in the 21st century. And it's a conversation that will absolutely shape the future of our planet.